Is South Carolina the next UConn? That was a popular question last season, and they were 2 wins away from that being the narrative going into 23-24 season. But as we know, they could not get it done in the Final Four as they lost their one and only game to Iowa and Caitlin Clark. Now, Boston's off to the WNBA, and she might single-handedly carry the Fever into the playoffs. Now, South Carolina seems like an afterthought in the discussion about potential championships in 2023-24 season, as the basketball world and the SEC has moved on to new and more exciting teams, which is Kim Mulkey-led LSU and their super team led by Reese, Morrow, and HVL. As well, eyes are focused on the old guard UConn. Can they be healthy and reclaim what they believe to be their rightful place, which is on top of women's college basketball? In this video, we are going to take a deep dive on how Dawn Staley built South Carolina and if they are the team everybody is overlooking going into the 2023-24 season. Before we start, if you like this video and like the content, then please like and subscribe to the channel. All right, let's get into it. As you are likely aware, Staley took over the Gamecocks in 2008 after they experienced decades of mediocrity, and she steadily improved the program each year. But the turning point came in 2014 when she convinced the nation's top recruit, A'ja Wilson, to stay in her home state. Wilson, now the 2-time WNBA MVP and reigning league champion, instantly sent the program into overdrive. The Gamecocks won 3 consecutive SEC conference titles and tournament titles, and then the program's first national championship in 2017. Staley reloaded again, landing the top recruiting class in 2019, which was a monster, and included Aliyah Boston, Zia Cook, and Beal, just to name a few. In 2021, South Carolina rewarded Staley with a 7-year, $22.4 million contract, the second largest in the country behind Gino Auriemma. And then she rewarded the university with their second national championship, beating UConn. How sweet it was for their second title. Hence the talk last year, South Carolina being the next UConn. And then it felt inevitable that South Carolina would march to their third championship in 2022 and 23 season as they stomped on UConn in their own backyard, causing Gino to lose his cool and get teed up and complain after the game that it wasn't basketball. But if you want more on that, check out this other video. I want to stick to where South Carolina is now. So after beating UConn, South Carolina was on the march. They tore through the rest of the season and the SEC tournament undefeated and made it to the Final Four, and then they ran into Iowa. Prior to the game, they were paying minus 800 to win versus Iowa. Iowa was plus 575. However, they had one fatal flaw that got exposed: consistent outside shooting, as they only shot 39% from the floor and 20% from the three-point line during this game. Clark giving Raven Johnson the cold-blooded wave-off when she was open from outside. Now, it seems unfair to ask this, but I will ask it anyway. Did the Gamecocks underachieve in the Aliyah Boston era by just getting one title? Or are they just a victim of COVID and facing a hot Caitlin Clark in a one-game scenario where anything can happen? I think it's the latter, and this upcoming season, they might be the sleeping giant that is released by not having the weight of expectations on their shoulders. As mentioned, UConn and LSU will be the glamour popular teams going into this season, but let's go into pukey cliches. South Carolina doesn't rebuild, they reload. Now, let's get into this. Boston was obviously a big loss for USC, but few programs have the luxury of replacing such a big with the even bigger Camilo Cardoso. The 6'7" center averaged just under 9 points and 7 rebounds in just 18 minutes per game, as obviously her time was limited by the presence of Boston. Because of Boston's foul trouble in the finals versus Iowa, we got to get a taste of her, watching her crush Iowa on the boards with 9 offensive rebounds, and it seemed like she was playing keep away with them. The other big key in helping South Carolina come back strong will be Raven Johnson. As mentioned during the game against Iowa, Clark gave her the wave off, but to her credit, she took the open shots, making 5 for 11, which included 3 of 6 from beyond the arc. The Gamecocks are counting on her development as she came into the 2021 season as the number 2 ranked recruit behind AZ Fudd, and then she tore her ACL in the second game and then redshirted. She returned in 2022-23, sharing the point guard duties with Fletcher, and as the season went along, she got stronger and stronger, with her best games coming against UConn, LSU, and Iowa. Now the Gamecocks backcourt is further strengthened by Oregon transfer Tahina Paopao, which was an important transfer signing. Yes, they missed out on Morrow. Paopao played point guard at Oregon and averaged 13 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists a game, but she can also play off guard, and the key is she can shoot. She shot 44% from the field, but as well 42% from behind the three-point line, which would have been very handy last year when Boston was around. But anyway, I digress. The nice thing about the Gamecocks is they will have options and lineup flexibility. For instance, they could move Paopao to point guard and then move Bree Hall to the off guard and have Chloe Kitts at the small forward to give them more shooting. They're set at the 4 with Sanaya Fagan returning as well. They have Ashley Walken, so they're set up there as well. The other transfer portal signee they got was Sakima Walker, who's a JUCO, but she was rated around in the 60s as a freshman coming out. She sort of flamed out at Rutgers and has rebuilt her career. And it looks like she's solid. I think she's 6'5", so they could do their twin towers, much like they did with Cardoso and Boston. They could do that with Walker and with Cardoso. So this team, the cupboard is not barren, as you would like to say. I think it's interesting. They are going to be in the Hall of Fame game, and they are going to match up against Utah. I think this will be a fascinating matchup, as this is really, Utah's not Iowa, but it's that type of team that 3 is worth more than 2 that got them. I'm curious if Staley will use more roster flexibility and get more shooters on the floor to combat this, and I think that's a great matchup and a great early test to see how South Carolina has rebounded from the finals lost and have reloaded going forward. Because I don't think it's out of the question that they win the SEC over LSU. I would certainly think LSU would be favored for sure, but South Carolina, they play good basketball. It will be fun to watch. Anyway, your comments below if I've left anything out or butchered a name. Your poison's always welcome. Thanks a lot for watching. Hope to see you next time.